This is why there's no replacement for experience. I've done this 1,000 times and I just figured out a new trick. I love aquascaping, but I also love big tanks and monster fish keeping. And a lot of people say that those two things don't go together. But I disagree. And I've learned tricks over the years that allow me to keep monster fish in aquascape tanks. So I've got a couple fish that get absolutely massive and need a new home. And that's why I've got this tank right here. And we are going to aquascape it, then put those big fish in there in a way that they can't tear it up. And the cool part about all of that is we're going to do it on a really small budget. So I'm constantly shopping the used aquarium market looking for just that right deal. And I'll look every day, and maybe once a month I find something and say, wow, that's the one, that's the deal, that's the tank for me. That's the case with this one here. It is an unusual configuration in that it's a 150-gallon tank, which 150-gallon tanks are almost always 6 foot long. But this is only a 4-foot tank. This tank is really tall and really deep, which allows me to get a different kind of look in it. It's going to be a different kind of aquascape. And when you're talking about fish that get really big, a 4-foot long, 2-foot wide tank will house them longer than a 6-foot long tank that's only 18 inches wide. So that's why I was searching out a tank that I could manage, but was a full 2-foot front to back. And right now we're gonna set this 150-gallon up, do the aquascape. Then when it's all set up, we'll show you the fish I'm talking about. And some of you who follow my channel already know what fish I'm talking about. So there's a lot that goes into this as far as how do I keep them from digging out the plants and rearranging everything. So let's get started on it right now. And step one is to kind of clean the glass just a little bit. I'm gonna add just enough water that I can clean the glass and make sure I don't have any lower level leaks. They said they just had this filled a few weeks ago and that it does not leak. All the seals look good on it, so I'm not going to reseal it. But I want to clean this glass. And actually, before that, the very first thing I'm going to do is clean the back panel and paint the back panel because I've got to paint it 3 times. So I want to get that first coat of paint on so that it can be drying while I'm working on everything else. So this tank wasn't even an idea 24 hours ago. I saw the listing about 18 hours ago. I've already got it picked up. I've got all my aquascaping supplies, and I will have fish in it in a couple hours. I use this apple barrel craft paint from Walmart because it's super cheap and it does a great job. And also, if you ever want to remove it, it's easy to take off. Just cost a few bucks. And then I always keep that on hand and these little miniature rollers. Paint the whole back of this big aquarium. Just takes a couple minutes, cost a couple dollars. And the difference it makes on how nice your aquarium looks is just night and day. Now that I've done it this way, I'll never set up an aquarium without painting the back again unless there's a special reason why. I've shown this a bunch of times, so it's just repetitive. I'm not going to show painting this, but I will paint it, let it dry for maybe 30 minutes or so till it feels dry to the touch, and do a second coat and then a third one. So we're talking about an hour and a half to 2 hours to get 3 coats of paint on this. Now I'm just going to clean the inside of the glass on the viewing panels while I'm waiting on that paint to dry on that first coat, and then we'll start doing like a dry setup. It's not something I normally do every time, is set it up dry, but I think I'm going to this time because I've got so many different things I'm trying to accomplish with this build in terms of not just placing everything where it looks nice, but I want to intentionally establish an area where the fish can dig because these fish want to dig. I don't want to block them from digging at all. I just don't want them to dig where my planting is. This looks soapy. It looks like this was washed with soap. So that means I need to wash the whole inside of it, spray water all over, and then drain that water out. I would never, even if I was cleaning an aquarium to sell it, I would never put soap inside of an aquarium. There's just no reason to. So I'm going to give this a deep clean and keep painting, and I'll come back for the parts of this that might be interesting to you. So I have a generalized picture of what I want to do here, but I don't know it 100%. So I'm going to set some of the stuff in just to look at it. We're not going to do the full aquascape dry, just a little bit, because what I need to decide is what areas are am I going to allow these fish to dig? It's in their nature to dig, so on some level, to me, it feels like a little bit, if I didn't allow them to dig at all, that would almost be like mistreatment. So I want to leave an area where they can dig and ruin the aquascape. And I always put soil under my substrate so that the plants can root down into that soil and thrive. I think soil under the sand in any aquascape is a key component, and I'm always going to do it. But I don't want them to dig where the dirt is at. So I'm going to pick an area that does not have plants and does not have dirt. And we'll put just sand around that area, and then we'll pack the dirt into the rest of the tank. And then we'll start taking our measures to keep the fish from digging into the areas that have the dirt. Okay, so I've got this big piece of wood here. I think it's going to go in the corner. It's a really nice piece of driftwood. And I'm going to put these big sword plants on either side of it, and then arrange these two pieces of driftwood kind of like this. I want a big rock formation in this corner, but not too much. I'm thinking these, yeah, these might be towards the front over here and kind of tangled with each other. So people are always asking me, where do I get my sand and my gravel? I go to Lowe's and I get this. It's J&R Sand and Gravel. And I'm right on the Missouri line, and the Lowe's I go to is in Missouri, and this stuff comes from Missouri. So it may be local. I don't know if this is nationally available, but there's probably something similar in your area. But this stuff's like $5 a bag, and it's 90% sand with a little bit of small rock mixed into it. It works a lot better than play sand, and it's cheap. And everything I do is about making this hobby affordable. And that's, so why would I not do it that way with the sand? Now, if the sand sucked, I wouldn't use it. I don't use play sand because I don't like the way it lets all the dirt up through, basically. So we're gonna put a bunch of sand here at the front. Man, these 30-inch deep aquariums are hard to aquascape. You almost have to get in them, but I don't want to get in it. I'm always a deep substrate guy. The front is going to be sand, like that. Now I've got a bag of topsoil. I think this stuff came from Walmart. I go and I buy a whole bunch of this stuff. A whole bunch of sand, a whole bunch of topsoil, and then I just have it here for whenever I'm ready to do a tank. Okay, now we got that done. We're gonna wet down our dirt. You don't want too much, just moist. This is not a short joke, but I'm 6 foot tall, and it's all I can do to bend at the waist and reach the bottom of this. If you were 5 foot tall, you would probably have to climb inside this, I guess. At this step, a lot of people will tell you to wait 24 hours and kind of let that soil off gas. And that if you don't, it'll gas into your aquarium. And that might be true, but I've been doing it the other way for a while now and never have any problems. It does off gas, but I've never had that cause a problem with the aquarium. So I'm going to just keep doing what works. And I'm impatient, just being real. So however much dirt you put in, you want twice as much sand as you have dirt. Because the nutrients from the dirt will leach up into the sand half the same thickness. So if you have 1 inch of dirt, it'll leach up into the sand 1 inch. That's why you need 2 inches of sand so that that nutrients doesn't leach all the way up. You want a barrier between the excess nutrients in the soil and the water column. So I'm gonna say for this big tank, half a bag of potting soil or half a bag of topsoil and 3 bags of sand. So you're at about $20 for substrate. I don't usually spend $20 on substrate, even though some people probably spend $500 on substrate. If you have a big tank and you go buy all the sand at the fish store, the pet store, you're going to spend a fortune on it. But 20 is all I'm interested in. I mean, I have a little bit more to add. Now, in a recent video, I showed my strategy for how I keep my fish from digging using medium-sized round stone. And that works. But I wanted something different in this one. And we're using this slate to keep the fish from digging. And I love the look of it. Now this stuff is sold by the piece at Lowe's. I think it's like $5 or $6 a piece, but the pieces sometimes are huge. So I buy the biggest pieces I can find and then I drop them on the ground and they shatter. Now I've got 40 pieces, so don't ever buy the small pieces of slate. They're the same price. Okay, these next two pieces were actually one piece, broken in half. All right, so we are covering most of this, but not all of it, which allows for planting. And because that dirt goes all the way across, the plants will be able to seep into the dirt, but we're going to stack the stones in a way that the fish cannot dig the plants out. So now we're going to start planting our mother swords and push those roots way down into the dirt and cover them back over with sand. These plants have tons of roots in them. It's always a good sign. So the way I've got these plants in here, they're buried, but they still have opportunity for their roots to spread into all this dirt that's under this stone and next to the stone. So at this point, I think we're far enough along to start adding water. It's not why I do it, but a nice little side benefit to this slate is it lets you fill without the water splashing and disturbing your substrate mix. A lot of times right now, I mean, you've got to figure out a way to fill this without it splashing. And that slate does that for us. All right, now we're going to take another piece of slate and put it back here next to that as another impediment to digging. And I got this big guy right here. And we're going to stack these in a way that this creates like a raised ledge that the fish can swim under. So already we're set up in a way that the fish can't dig. And we've got some structure, and we've got some wood. I use this, create more shape, and then randomly set some of these pieces on here like this. Literally random without a plan. And we'll do the same thing over here. Now we're going to add some more plants. I've got this really nice jungle valve. I'm going to poke it around here behind these rocks. Once again, to prevent digging. Separate the pieces out. Up here. Got some more pieces of it we'll put on the back. Oh, I've got some of this aquatic ivy, or clover, aquatic clover. And we're going to put that up here, and it might get dug out, and it won't have soil, but we'll see how it does. Okay, next we've got this stone here that I picked up. It's called Natural Aquarium Rock by Carib Sea Dragonstone. Very cool stuff, and I think the colors will mix good with the slate. We're going to add that stuff in now. Randomly. I'll stick some up here, and it can always be moved later, but I start off intentionally random, which sounds like a contradiction, but I actually think it's the answer, and I kind of got that from MD fish tanks as far as the natural aspect of it. So now the routine is to fill it and then drain it and then fill it and then drain it to get rid of all the dust, because that rock and sand, even if you wash it, will still have dust and dirt on it. This is why there's no replacement for experience. I've done this 1,000 times and I just figured out a new trick. Normally I fill these and drain them and fill them and drain them, and that takes a couple hours. And it's slow and it's not that effective. What I realized is, why not just put barely enough water in to cover everything that would have dust on it and then drain it? so that you're not doing it multiple times, or because I never drain it all the way down because that's so time consuming. But if by filling this only halfway up, I'm able to drain it down to nothing and then refill. At this point, we fast forwarded maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours. I've set up the filters and the lights. I did fill the tank all the way up, drain it back down to about a normal water change amount, and did a water change. And I think it's looking pretty darn good. I want to show you up close everything. It's still got a little bit of that white haze, but not too bad at all. And that's just rock dust. It's not anything that's harmful. But I've also, got cycled media in the canister filters. I've added quick start and dechlorinator, and this thing should be ready to rock and roll. So I want to go through and show you everything I've done here. But before we do that, let's get the fish in it. That's going to mean we have 2 angry Dovii. These fish really are mean, and they're aggressive, and they're smart, and they're not like any other fish I've ever kept before. So let's get them in here. Then we'll talk about how they're going to treat this as a new home and how well I think this is going to work. Okay, this is definitely an unhappy fish, and I don't know which one we have. Oh yeah, and I got a bunch of debris in there with her. I think that's the female. I didn't mean to drag all this junk out of the roots of my floating plants, but it happened anyway. All right, let's go get the other guy. This guy is definitely the male. He's really put up a fight to be caught. There he goes. That's an angry fish. I don't blame him. I hate moving fish. It's not, it's nothing but stressful for them. And we're not going to see those guys out swimming around any. So I don't blame the fish at all for not wanting to be moved. I mean, they don't understand what's happening. The point is that 75-gallon aquarium that they were in was only going to last them for a few months, and I could not leave them there. Those fish grow too big, too fast, and they were just not in the right kind of tank. So we've done our scaping here, and I've got this piled up where I don't think they can dig here. Okay, the 2 fish are together. I don't know if you can see them, but they're both right there behind that piece of driftwood. So they've got their hiding place to feel secure. And as far as the Aquascape, well, I didn't use all this height because these fish need free swimming space. Right now, they don't. So if this was a regular height of tank, like a 21-inch tank, they'd be fine with this free space that's in the front. But as they grow, they're going to need to be able to free swim in the top. And because this tank is 2 foot wide, they're going to be able to do that. You see here, after I did that sand at the base, I scattered some small stone on it. I think that makes it feel more natural. Then we've got this rock thrown about. I don't feel like these pieces of driftwood really match each other to give a cohesive look. I wish I could have found a giant piece with this kind of look to bring up from the corner. But I do all of this on a budget, and I'm trying to make it cost effective and just use what I've got available to me. So over here, at the size they are, those Dovii might be able to dig up some of these plants, but we'll see if they actually do. But see, this bottom piece of slate comes within a ½ inch. So I don't think that they're likely to dig this up, but I left this whole front where they can dig. Now, this is not a fully planted tank, but really, normally, you can't keep plants at all with Dovii. And I think I'm going to be able to keep these pretty well. Let's talk about what it actually cost me to set up this 150-gallon aquarium. I got the aquarium with the stand and 2 canister filters for $250. Substrate and rock and driftwood cost me about 80 bucks. And that is by bargain shopping everything. And that takes us to $330. I got the 2 giant sword plants for $40. That's $370. I get these generic LEDs at Walmart for 20 bucks. I put 3 of those cheapo $20 lights on there, and it's lit up, I mean, as bright as you could ever want it. Especially once this water clears, that's going to be super bright and well lit. That takes me to $430. I already have central aeration, so I didn't have to add any air. I already had the other plants. I already had the fish. I think that's really about it. So I set up this entire thing for under $500. I don't know about you, but I think that's pretty exceptional of a value, honestly. What I'm trying to prove on this channel is that you can have nice aquascapes and big aggressive monster fish. And this is just one example, and I've got some bigger and better ones in mind. So I appreciate you taking time to watch this video. I'll put links on the screen to a couple more of our videos, and I'll see you next time.